Hello and welcome to Into Vietnam Weekend. We summarize major business events in the week ending April the 21st. Here's top stories. Vietnam attracts $8.2 billion of foreign direct investments in 4 months. Vietnam actively contributes to the success of the 22nd Asian Summit in Brunei. Vietnam and the European Union promotes the protection and registration of geographical indications. Foreign trade news will continue the program.
Vietnam has attracted $8.2 billion of FDI capital in the first 4 months of this year. This equals to 50% of FDI capital attracted in 2012. As of April the 20th, the Southeast Asian nation attracted nearly $8.2 billion of FDI, of which newly registered capital amounted to nearly $5 billion, up 15% on year, while additional capital supplemented $3.3 billion to 121 existing projects compared with the end of March. Total FDI capital attracted has increased over $2 billion. In terms of investment sectors, processing and manufacturing sector attracted most of FDI, accounting for 90% of total FDI poured in the country. Real estate comes next with 4%. Singapore is the largest investor in Vietnam during the period, with nearly half of proportion. Russia, Japan, Thailand, South Korea are also big investors to the Southeast Asian countries in the period.
CPI in April 2013 rose 6.61% versus the same period of 2012 and 2.41% against the end of last year. After the petroleum price hike in the month, many people were concerned prices of other commodities, especially the sensitive group of food and foodstuff, will be pushed up. But it was opposite. Food and foodstuff did not experience price hike, but has the strongest fall. If it were not for the jump in prices of healthcare services on some localities, CPI would certainly fall compared to the previous months. On the increased effects, pharmaceuticals and healthcare service price hikes in 4 localities of Hai Phong, Nam Định, Bình Thuận and Tây Ninh drove the group to the highest increase level of 3.62% a month. The group contributed 0.2% to the CPI. Another contributor to CPI rise is transportation. After having its prices adjusted twice in April, transportation prices were up 1.2%. On the opposite effects, the drop in restaurants prices of 0.91% dragged down April CPI by 0.4%. Post services and telecommunication have their prices dropped 0.15% and construction material 0.44%. Excluded in CPI calculation, gold and US dollar have the opposite trends, with the former increasing 2.56% and the latter sliding 0.01% a month.
The General Statistics Office reported the Industrial Production Index in April increased by 5.8% over the same period last year, contributing to a year-on-year increase of 5% in the first 4 months of this year. Accordingly, in April, the mining industry saw a rise of 1%, manufacturing and processing industry 6.9%, electricity production and distribution 9.2%, and water supply, waste and wastewater treatment 9.7%. The Industrial Production Index of Ho Chi Minh City recorded a 3.9% rise in April compared to 1 year ago, while Hanoi's increased by 4.7%. The Northern Province of Vĩnh Phúc Index was up 15.1%, and Central Da Nang City saw a 10.7% increase.
Here's the review of major macroeconomic and investment events during the past week.
The 22nd ASEAN Summit ended in Bandar Seri Begawan in Brunei yesterday. Right after the event, Vietnam's Foreign Minister Phạm Bình Minh briefed the press on Vietnam's participation in the summit. He says the delegation made significant contributions to the key topics at the summit, especially to the discussion to build economic integration in 2015. At the summit themed Our People, Our Future Together, Vietnamese delegation and leaders of the member states gathered to review and deliberate on the economic integration efforts and a host of regional and international issues of common concern. The ASEAN leaders took note and expressed satisfaction at the progress towards the setting up an ASEAN Economic Community known as AEC by the end of 2015. According to the statement, 259 measures, or 77.54% of the AEC blueprint, have been implemented as of now. The leaders agreed to enhance ASEAN competitiveness by better facilitating trade and investment, leveraging upon ongoing work to establish the AEC. They also recommended rolling out a roadmap to set out initiatives to ease the way of doing business and address investment and impediments in the region. Official statistics show that since the adoption of the blueprint in November 2007, per capita income in the region has risen from $2,267 to $3,759 in 2012. The total trade of the 10-nation bloc grew by 16.8% from $2.05 trillion in 2010 to $2.4 trillion in 2011, as intra-ASEAN trade reached $598 billion from $520 billion, an increase of 15.1% year-on-year. The ASEAN region has also continued to attract foreign investors, generating a record foreign direct investment flow of $114 billion in 2011, a 23% rise from 2010. Alfred Skip, head of an International Monetary Fund's team reviewing macroeconomic and structural policy, said Vietnam's macroeconomics is on the right track. Inflation has fallen, economic growth is at reasonable rate, and foreign currency reserves have increased. The International Monetary Fund is willing to further strengthen cooperation with Vietnam, especially in providing technical assistance and sharing experiences. From the Vietnamese side, the government will continue its efforts to curb inflation, stabilize macroeconomics, step up economic restructuring, and seriously consider the IMF recommendations relating to the country's macroeconomics and economic restructure.
The Italian Chamber of Commerce in Vietnam, or ICHAM, has organized a B2B meeting between Vietnamese businesses and 12 Italian counterparts from central regions of Umbria. This is the first Italian delegation to Vietnam in the Vietnam-Italy year. In fact, this is the second time the Umbria business delegation has arrived in Vietnam to seek for partners. This year, the B2B meetings were held in both Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi. The Umbrian companies represent strategic economic sectors of the region, including agriculture, mechanics, automotive, and medical equipment, among others. Mr. Michele Decaux, ICHAM president, clarifies the aim of the visit. Mr. Enzo Felucci, director of Umbria Export and head of the delegation, says the Italian businesses have had 180 working sessions with 80 companies in Vietnam, and the B2B meetings have brought about positive results.
I've organized 108 B2B, and in general there is a good result. In other sectors there is a very, very strong interest to establish a wide relationship, also to evaluate the possibility to establish here up the production in Vietnam, because we know that Vietnam is a strategic country inside the Asian area. So for us, we are looking Vietnam as a country that is very, very strategic to establish a wider relationship also with Laos, Cambodia, Thailand.
The B2B meetings is among a series of events to celebrate the 40th anniversary of diplomatic ties Vietnam-Italy. It contributes to reducing the geographical distance between the two nations and raise the bilateral relation to a higher level.
Negotiations on free trade agreement between Vietnam and the European Union are underway, and geographical indications, known as GI, are among key issues in the process. Therefore, EU sees this an appropriate than ever moment to hold the seminar on GI registration and protection, which were organized in both Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. The seminars were part of a bigger campaign named Taste of Europe, to demonstrate the advantages of GI with real examples. Producers representing European GI products were on display in the Vietnam Food and Hotel Festival 2013. VietTV reporter features the tasteful week of European agri products in Vietnam during the past week.
Geographical indications are often place names that identify the products that originate there and have the characteristics associated with the place. A geographical indication is a distinctive sign used to identify a product as originating in the territory of a particular country, region, or locality where its quality, reputation, or other characteristic is linked to its geographical origin.
But I think first of all we have to underline some elements that geographical indication is important, and geographical indication is important for Europe, but I think it's important for a lot of countries in the world, and that is the reason why we started this seminar with the Vietnamese authorities. Well, geographical indication is a common value of the producers of one particular product. It's linked to the rural areas in which it's produced or to the area in general which is produced, and is one common intellectual property right of all the people that are working on that. For the consumer is the clear guarantee that the thing you are eating or drinking is connected with one way of production, with one standard of quality and one history of this particular product. That means that contributes to the heritage of the rural areas and the heritage of a common way of consume food and
The protection of geographical indications matters economically and culturally. They can create value for local communities through products that are deeply rooted in tradition, culture, and geography. They support rural development or promote new job opportunities in production, processing, and other related services.
So I think that in the life we are coming from somewhere, and everybody needs to have strong roots. And I think it's the same also for the product. If you are coming from an area in a country and you know exactly what you are doing, you know how you produced, how you are processing the meat, for example, it's very important. And of course, that means you produce quality. And I think that today the consumers are waiting for good quality, and they are very happy to have GI's products, because those GI's products are synonym of geographic indication.
I can show you my own example. That is very, very easy question for me, because I am coming from an area in which we have an heritage, a cultural heritage since the Roman Empire. That means 2,000 years. Roman ruins are there, but the added value of the region, the real added value of the region, the increase of the tourism, the increase of the knowledge of the region was in the moment that we create, and I have to say we because I am owner of one small terrace of wine in this area, in the moment that we create a GI for wine. If, for example, you have one GI that is connected with your tourist areas or nearby is not necessary, that will be a very, very good ambassador to the visiting area also. Sometimes people go to Valencia to take a good thing coming from rice from Valencia, and people go to Parma to see the good food that is coming from the Parmigiano Reggiano. That means it's one part of the heritage. The thing that we take every day is our heritage also.
Over the years, European countries have taken the lead in identifying and protecting their geographical indications. Geographical indications are becoming a useful intellectual property right for developing countries because of their potential to add value and promote rural socio-economic development. Most countries have a range of local products that correspond to the concept of geographical indications, but only a few are already known for protected globally. The EU supports better protection of geographical indications internationally due to the increasing number of violations throughout the world.
I think that the European Union geographical indication system is, from a legal point of view, very important for Parmigiano Reggiano and therefore for any producer of Parmigiano Reggiano and also for consumer, because the EU legal system of PDO and PGI, generically geographical indication, is a very strong system of protection from a legal point of view, and this is a benefit not only for producers but also and probably especially for consumers. Today there are 8,300 cheese dairies producing Parmigiano Reggiano, but we have more or less 4,000 producers of milk, which is aimed at the production of Parmigiano Reggiano in this area. And today's turnover of the cheese is more or less 1.8 million of euro. And the export in 2011 of Parmigiano Reggiano, when I mean export, I mean not in a legal way, but I mean outside Italy, is more or less 32% of Parmigiano Reggiano in 2011.
The EU is active in multilateral and bilateral negotiations protecting EU geographical indication. At a multilateral level, the Agreement on Trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights contains a specific section on geographical indications. It enhances their protection and expands it into a significantly higher number of countries than previous international agreements. The EU continues to be one of the principal supporters of negotiations on geographical indications in the WTO's Doha Development Agenda. Negotiations have focused on the establishment of a multilateral register for geographical indications and the extension to all products of the level of protection currently granted to wines and spirits. At a bilateral level, the EU is negotiating GI's protection under two different frameworks: specific standalone agreements on GIs and broader trade agreements, free trade agreements, such as negotiations for an EU-Canada Comprehensive and Trade Agreement, negotiations for an EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement, negotiations for an FTA with Japan are expected to start in spring 2013. A seminar on protection and registration for geographical indications, or GIs, organized by the Directorate General for Agriculture and Rural Development at the European Commission, took place in Hanoi. In the context of the ongoing free trade agreement negotiation between Vietnam and the EU, the seminar presented the mutual benefits that specific agreements provision on geographical indications protection can offer.
Well, for this reason that we consider that geographical indication has a very high level of importance for producers and consumers, we try to work on this concept with countries which we have good relations, particularly in countries like Vietnam, in which you have also a tradition of protecting geographical indication. Now we are negotiating a free trade agreement with Vietnam, in which geographical indications will be one part of the negotiation, and we think that is a good moment in order to increase the relations between Europe and Vietnam in this particular issue, and on the other hand, that will be a good moment to make a qualitative thought, that means to make a big progress in the common protection of geographical indication using the framework of the agreement in the future.
Attending the seminar were European and Vietnamese producers of GI products, as well as representatives of Vietnamese administration and businesses. At the seminar, head of delegation of the European Union to Vietnam, Franz Jessen, said, the FTA should encourage the Vietnamese producers holding the Vietnamese GI to get their traditional products protected in the European Union directly through the agreement. This could facilitate the marketing of their products on international markets. The speakers highlighted that the protected GI products are sold at higher prices, 3.32 times higher compared to similar non-GI products. It is proven that the protection schemes have important and positive socio-economic effects on several rural and remote agricultural regions, where a great part of their products are produced and manufactured. This applies to both Europe and Vietnam.
Đối với lại nước mắm Phan Thiết đã đăng ký chỉ dẫn địa lý là rất lâu rồi, và những cái lợi ích mà chỉ dẫn địa lý cho cái nước mắm Phan Thiết thì nó có gồm những cái vấn đề chính như sau. Thứ nhất là những cái sản phẩm mà được mang chỉ dẫn địa lý của Phan Thiết thì nó được là bảo hộ của các cái cấp chính quyền địa phương. Cái vấn đề thứ hai là nó sẽ tạo ra một cái giá trị gia tăng so với lại cái sản phẩm mà cùng loại mà không mang được cái chỉ dẫn địa lý. Theo thống kê thì cái giá trị gia tăng đó nó gấp 2,23 lần. Đó là những cái lợi ích mà những cái sản phẩm mà mang chỉ dẫn địa lý có được. Ngoài ra thì các cái sản phẩm mang chỉ dẫn địa lý nó có cái thuận lợi là được người tiêu dùng người ta tin tưởng, và thị trường là rất là yên tâm cho cái việc là đây là cái hàng nó có xuất xứ nguồn gốc cũng như là không bị hàng nhái, hàng giả. Ngoài ra các cái lợi ích khác mà có thể là mang lại khi mà một cái sản phẩm mang chỉ dẫn địa lý, đó là những cái vấn đề mà về truyền thống cũng như là cái văn hóa được bảo tồn. Đó là những cái giá trị mà các cái sản phẩm được mang chỉ dẫn địa lý. Sau khi mà dự hội thảo này xong, mình sẽ triển khai cái vấn đề này.
The Vietnamese producer of Phú Quốc, the Vietnamese GI recently registered in the EU, showed that this case should pave the way to other Vietnamese GIs.
Cà phê nhân là một cà phê nguyên liệu, và thường thì các nhà đăng ký EU người ta phối trộn với những cái sản phẩm cà phê khác. Vậy thì liệu cà phê bán thuốc sắp tới chúng tôi bảo hộ vào EU và quá phức tạp với cái việc bảo hộ một sản phẩm nguyên liệu như thế này thì thị trường.
We have one registered system that is open for all the GI producers in the world, that they can provide the elements that they are necessary to support this registration. For the time being, we have only one. We expect to have, in a very short delay, coffee also from your country. But I think in the free trade agreement that is negotiated now, we will have a big opportunity to make a lot of progress in different products at the same time. Well, the procedure is long in the European Commission. We try to be shorter. The important issue is that you protect the things that they are relevant in your food, they are relevant in your culture, because in that moment you are transferring not only the product, but you are transferring an enormous value of your country to Europe. We have plenty of restaurants of Vietnamese cuisine, and the added value of the GI will be very high if it's protected something that is going to be protected. But we have to see that the definition of the product you want to protect is similar to the definition of the same product in Europe. That means if in coffee we produce finished product, we have to see how we can adapt the raw material to the finished product. But in principle, all the agricultural products that they are produced with the rules of AGI has the right to be protected in the European Union system. In some cases we have more complicated procedure, and another one we have less complicated procedure. But I think the way is open for the protection of the coffee coming from Vietnam.
The European Union participated for the first time in Food and Hotel Vietnam in Ho Chi Minh City on April 24th to 26th with an exhibition stand that hosted 20 EU producers and producers associations from all over the continent. A vast variety of European food and beverage products were displayed, including ham, feta cheese, top-quality olive oil, and wine from Spain, Portugal, and Austria.
I'm here to bring here the example of Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. It's one of the most famous PDO geographical indication. I think we have in Europe one of the more historical, because the production of Parmigiano Reggiano began 9 centuries ago in a small area of Italy. It's, I think, a cool example of what a geographical indication is, because the name Parmigiano Reggiano means Parmigiano from Parma, Reggiano from Reggio, which are 2 provinces in the certain northern part of Italy. This is a cheese made exactly in the same way as 9 centuries ago, with all 3 natural ingredients, milk, salt and rennet, in the same way, in the same traditional way, in the same, this is basic traditional area.
Visitors could attend a series of workshops, food tastings, cooking demonstrations, and meeting with producers. The program demonstrated to Vietnamese producers and food professionals various EU quality schemes already in place that they can benefit from. These schemes guarantee the quality and authenticity of food and beverage products and help the consumers to identify products of genuine quality. Vietnamese producers can register their typical products in EU and receive protection offered by these schemes, which could in turn facilitate the marketing of their products in international markets.
And thank you for watching. This is the end of this series, and we hope you will join us next time. Till then, goodbye.